Howdy folks, Craig and Ray here on the third floor. It's time to talk about the 10 Thunders. Quick disclaimer. Malifaux 3rd Edition was still in open beta when we filmed this, so some of the details may have changed, but overall the theme should remain about the same. We are producing new content about Malifaux on a weekly basis. Make sure you like this video and subscribe, and we can't thank everybody enough who's been leaving comments both on our channel and our Facebook page. Enjoy the video. Okay, Yan Lo, Dual Faction Master. If you've declared 10 Thunders, you're telling me that you've got Yan Lo as your master, what am I going to expect to see?
It really depends, and that's something about Yan Lo that's probably the coolest thing about him.
Okay.
So to answer that question properly, let's talk about what he does.
Okay.
The big thing he does is he powers up. He attaches what are called Ascendant upgrades. Every time he activates, he chooses from one of 5 upgrades, and each of these upgrades gets slightly better when it attaches, the more upgrades you have on you.
So they kind of build off each other?
They build off of each other, and they all give him unique abilities. And what the flavor of how you play Yan Lo is going to be the order you attach these upgrades and when you attach them.
So is there a cap?
They're not to attaching the upgrades. It's just once per turn, star of activation, you immediately do it.
Okay.
But every upgrade he has up to 3 gives him +1 to every duel he performs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When he gets to 3, he gets +1 to his movement.
Okay.
And I think also when he gets to 3, his damage goes up.
So in theory, then, I should anticipate by turn 3 when he activates, he's going to get that third one. If he survives all 5 turns, does he end up with all 5 upgrades?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah.
So depending on which upgrade of the 5 I pick and in which order, that's really going to determine things. So can you give me kind of a spectrum?
Yeah. So basically his 3 things are murder, control, and juggernaut, tankiness.
Okay.
Those are the 3 modes he can kind of go. His darkest magics is his base attack, and there's an upgrade that allows you to take an extra one for free, and then when he gets to 3, when it attaches. It gives him gunfighter, allows him to charge even if he's engaged. It just makes him more mobile for being able to kill. And like I said, when he gets to 3, he does that extra damage.
Right. So
he starts becoming something that's a very severe threat. And then, of course, by turn 3, that's a stat 7 cast.
Oh.
So there's that. 2 or 3 of his upgrades are defensive oriented. One of which is like his Flesh Ward, which gives him regeneration, a bonus action to heal, and something else that I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but it makes him really tanky. And then a couple of the other upgrades are utility-based upgrades, like being able to get soul stones off corpse markers, or being able to reposition himself, stuff like that.
So that's kind of cool because, based off of the board state at the beginning of each activation for him, it's at the beginning of each turn or his activation.
It's his activation.
That's even better because, I could delay that and really get a sense of board state. I can know which of those to bring in. So I understand. The versatility is definitely there. That's great.
Right.
How about, we talked about his offensive abilities when he gets to 3. Is there anything else offensively we should watch out for? Is that not that cast 7 damage dealing isn't enough?
So it's apparently not enough because he's got a way more abilities, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the big ones that you have to be aware of, he can heal.
Right.
Anybody. So that's a thing. He heals better if you have an Ancestor upgrade, which we'll get into when we talk about his crew. Or, an Ancestor upgrade.
Yep.
He has a reposition that gets better the more Ancestor upgrades you have. And then he can also resurrect Ancestors.
Oh, okay. So he can summon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of.
So when you say resurrected,
it's a replace effect.
Got it.
So it's not an actual true summon. You do have to have a model that you're going to replace to turn into something else. But, I mean, if you're, got a big heavy model that just died and you want to get it back off a Scheme Runner, you can do that.
Nice. Very, very nice. And we kind of covered the resiliency too, right? So depending on... That's kind of neat, though. I guess if I've got a crew coming at me hard early, I can load him up defensively. Yeah. If I'm going to take the battle to them, I can load him. That's very, very interesting. Talk to me about his totem.
So his totem is the Soul Porter, and the Soul Porter is one of those really, really annoying models because it's incorporeal. It can heal. It is I think it's move 6 and it's got reach 2.
Wow.
But it also has the ability to move other ancestors, so allows them to move their move. So it allows you to reposition off of a model that's really, really inexpensive on top of that. So it's just kind of an all-comer piece that you get a lot of work out of.
Nice. All right, that's Yan Lo. All right, if you've declared Yan Lo, I'm expecting some retainers, right?
Yes, you are.
So talk to me about that retainer keyword.
So the retainer keyword doesn't have a per se unique ability like some of the other keywords do. What it does is it has a kind of unique thematic to it.
Okay.
So all the retainers fall into one of two categories: ancestors and non-ancestors. And all the ancestors, when they die, have a demise ability that attaches a reliquary upgrade that is relevant to that model.
Okay.
So, like for instance, Izamu. So when Izamu dies, a model within 6 inches, I believe, gets to attach the reliquary Izamu upgrade.
Okay.
So what this does is it imparts some of the power of that model to the other model, like the
cool.
soul kind of melds onto them. And this does two things. Number one, it gives them the buff I just mentioned. But number two, that's how Yan Lo can get Izamu back.
Got it.
So the ability
where the replace happens.
That's where the replace happens. You can like that model that now is wearing that upgrade, I can now turn that into an Izamu.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, like just thematically, that's really
fantastic.
Cool.
It's absolutely fantastic. And what it does is it allows this play style where you can kind of almost be fearless.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, Izamu, go up there. Go ahead and get murdered. I'll just replace you.
Sure.
And then so the non-ancestor aspect of the retainer keyword are kind of all around bolstering that concept. So the models of import here are definitely the Gokudo, which are they're a hard to kill scheme runner that when they have a reliquary upgrade on them and they're replaced into the ancestor, they get to summon back on the board from a table edge.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay.
So they're kind of immortal in that regard.
Yeah.
But it also makes them big targets because I don't want you to get this guy back for free and then still have a model after that. I want it to at least cost something. So that's probably their only real downside. But then there's the Komainu, who are super tanky, kind of brawler beater models that are going to get into your opponent and kind of keep them away from things like your Gokudo. They can take hits from friendly models. Like you can just be like, hey, my guard dog is here. He gets that hit instead. So that helps keep Yan Lo alive in the early game because he's very squishy until turn 3.
So when we're talking about offense, then obviously Izamu, offensive threat.
Absolutely.
What other big offensive threats?
The big offensive threats are probably really Izamu and Yan Lo in the crew. There's a couple of other models like Manos, the Risen, and then of course Yin the Penangalan. Those two models can be offensive in nature, but I feel like their utility is probably a little bit more what you're pulling them in for. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to kill stuff, you really are using Izamu to frontline and really put the hurt on things. And then Yan Lo kind of comes in behind and goes, hey, I have the darkest magics, let's go.
Sure. Cool. How resilient is this crew?
Extremely resilient.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the replace thing becomes part of that, right?
Well, not only that, but one of the abilities that we didn't talk about with Yan Lo a minute ago was that he can pulse out shielded to his crew.
That's a big deal.
It's a really big deal. And so he can pulse out shielded. He can pass out heals. One of the retainer models is a healing model. Everyone's got some form of either armor or hard to kill or regeneration. Nice. You throw all of these things together, add in the replace concept, and you've got a crew that's incredibly hard to remove.
Yeah.
And that can be a really big challenge for some other factions and masters to be able to deal with. How do you stop a crew that is immortal?
Sure.
And that's kind of what the Ancestor Retainer keyword makes you feel like you have, especially when you get to turn 3.
That can be demoralizing.
It can be. It absolutely can be demoralizing. Because, one of the things you can do, and I don't really want to get into tactics, but it's a really big thing Yan Lo can do, is because you don't want him up turn 1, you can turn 1 and be like, you know what? Your crew is kind of dangerous from afar. I'm going to put on Incorporeal, the send and upgrade that grants Incorporeal, and my 3 actions are going to pulse shielded 3 out to my entire crew. And then I will use my crew and my Soul Porter to move me.
Got it.
And then they're going to get into position, and then if you get close enough to shoot at me, everyone's got shielded 3 plus all their other stuff. And if you do get damage on my models, I'll heal it next turn.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'm going to get to you, and that's going to be the end of the story.
Right. So
Very,
it
very
can be
nice.
very demoralizing at times.
Very nice. So how about out of keyword within the 10 Thunders faction? Any versatile models that you like to look at for Yanlo?
A lot of versatile models that I like to look at for Yanlo. I definitely like Yasunori with Yanlo
Okay.
because giving Yasunori shieldage just kind of dials him up a little bit because he's already really easily gets his damage reduction trigger. And then giving him shielded kind of effectively makes him armor 2 almost ad perpetuum.
Right.
The healing is really good for that. And the same thing with like the emissary. Ranged threats are really good for Yanlo to have because his crew inherently is not very ranged outside of him.
Snipers,
So
maybe.
like snipers would be the tax, but like Fuhatsu or Samurai, both of which have armor and hard to wound and juggernaut. So again, more tank is coming in.
Sure.
Given those guys shielding is almost like superfluous at that point. They're already almost impossible to kill.
So what is Yanlo and this crew afraid of?
He's afraid of people who ignore armor.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big one because a lot of his crew that is tanky because they're armor with shielding. So it's people who can ignore armor, people who can ignore shielding. Analyze weakness, I think, is the trigger.
Yeah, or precise is another one ability. Yep.
Those kind of triggers, definitely. Anything that can alpha, he has to respect because he's like defense 3 when he starts out. It's buffing him up. He's defense and willpower 3, or defense 3, willpower 4. No defensive stats.
Got it.
Like, his defensive stats are what he gets from his upgrades.
Got it.
So if you can get to him, the only thing stopping your opponent from killing you is the fact that you have 12 wounds and stones.
Got it.
And because you're running elite heavy with Yanlo, you may not be running a lot of stones because trying to pick which ancestor to take is like Manos gives regeneration when he dies, Izamu gives armor when he dies, you know, all these various things. It's like trying to pick which ones you're going to take. You run out of stones really quick playing with him.
I could see that.
But kind of the goal is that you're so impassable as a crew that you don't need to have a ton of stones.
Yep. But there is the opportunity to run into a crew that could make a bad day for Yanlo.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
if you can get in and you can get past that front line that's trying to protect him, and that's why I think Komainu are kind of almost an auto take with him because they can sack themselves to attacks.
Save him, right.
If you can get through to him, or if you have snipers and you can snipe him out, like early turn 2 type thing, even turn 3 if you can get to him. It's like if just stopping him by turn 3. If you can't stop him by turn 3, you are playing damage control.
Got it. How about what kind of player is going to enjoy playing Yanlo and 10 Thunders?
If you like Super Saiyan-esque kind of concepts to your game, then Yanlo is your dude.
Okay.
If you like Voltron kind of concepts to your characters, I know I'm going kind of anime cartoon here, but that's kind of what Yanlo feels like. Like, you get all of these abilities that you can kind of combine and do your crazy stuff with, and he's ramping up the entire time. So it's like, and if the last thing I would say is that if you would like to play a crew where you don't have to worry quite as much about dying.
Oh, okay.
Like,
You gotta be okay with it.
Yeah, if you like throwing models up and they normally gets killed and you're like, oh well, that happened. This is the crew for you because you can. I always throw Izamu up and he dies top of turn 2 or something like that, and I'm just like, oh darn.
Right.
You're now Izamu.
Very cool. Just so, last thing real quick. Learning curve. Do you think he's a steep learning curve, shallow learning curve? How is he for a new player?
I would say for a new player, he's probably not too bad.
Okay, good.
But I will say that the skill cap for him is fairly high.
Got it. I think that's true of almost all of them, isn't it?
It is really true of almost all of them, but Yanlo for me really feels that way because it starts from his crew selection and then moves to every turn what upgrades you're going.
Yep.
Who do you put your reliquary upgrades onto? When do you replace them?
Lots of decision points.
It's a lot of micromanaging decision points. So it's like if you just want to hurl people out and be like, an unstoppable god, you can do that, and then it's fairly simple. But if you want to get some really finite, high skill level plays, Yanlo can grant that to you.
That's great. All right, that's Yanlo.